So, Joe, thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, thank
The
you.
big question that I always want to know is why.
Yeah.
And the average age of a farmer is 60 in North Carolina and across the country. When I talk to older farmers, they have very little respect for you, I must say. And I understand why, because they're
Yeah.
jaded.
Oh,
And maybe
yeah.
respect is the wrong word, but they think you're crazy.
We are. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
why? Why go into farming? Why come out to Cabarrus County?
Yeah.
Why spend every Saturday and every waking moment thinking about what you're doing?
Yeah. I think it comes down simply because you love it. There's something that you enjoy doing. I have to be honest, it's like 100% completely selfish. Like I have myself, my wife, my daughter, my family's first. If it creates a life that we enjoy, that we feel value in or find value in, then that's really what it's all about. So I don't go into it thinking like I have to be a part of this new, like I'm not going to recreate agriculture, right? I'm not going to
Yeah.
change the wheel. I'm not that crazy to think that I'm doing something nobody else has ever done and blah, blah, blah. But I see value in it. I enjoy the way I spend my time. My time is valuable. Working for myself is awesome. Being outside, I think, is amazing. Working with plants and animals and nature, there's a rhythm to it. There's all those things that people tell you, feeling like you're a part of the world instead of, 9 to 5 in a cubicle, which to a lot of people that works for them. And to them, that's amazing and that's great. So we're just trying to be happy, live our lives, enjoy what we do, be passionate about it, find value in it. Yeah. And it's cool that we connect. Humans are very social, obviously. And so I think you need a connection to people in a lot of situations. I think half of what is probably wrong with us and why we're depressed and why we're unhealthy and a lot of these things probably stems from a connection, lack of connection, trying to figure out how we fit. We're a part of this community of people, of humans, of whatever. And so finding something that just fits, that just makes you feel like you is really important for people. And this is giving me that and giving us that, I think.
So when you've been here for 5 years?
Yeah, we're right at it, almost.
And then, so when was the moment in time where, because how old are you?
36, just turned 36.
So when was it, what were you doing before farming? And kind of how did that, where was that moment like, okay, I'm going to go do this?
Yeah. I did a lot of things. I went to community colleges multiple times in multiple places for multiple things.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be a lot of different things along the way. I studied music for a while.
Yeah.
I love that. I played in a band for a while. That was awesome. That got the creative juices flowing. That would have been awesome if I could have done that full time, but the pace of that gets hard and you're out all hours of the night and things like that. I worked in restaurants, hospitality, retail mostly. And I always said I wanted to be a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer. I grew up spending summers with him, baling hay, feeding cattle, working on mending fences, things like that. In 6th grade, I went to a career job fair day thing and dressed in jeans, white t-shirt, and one of my grandfather's like Pioneer seed corn hats or something, and said I wanted to be a farmer. And it only took me 30 years to get around to it. But I was in Boston managing a few restaurants, thought I was going to run restaurants and live in the big city. And it got old really fast. It wasn't as fulfilling as I wanted it to be. So I decided I was going to come back to North Carolina where I'd grown up, spent 25, 30 of my years here. I wanted to buy a little piece of property and I figured I'd go get a job, have a little hobby farm to play around with. Somehow one thing led to another to the Lomax farm. We fell into this and now we're not just hobby farming, we're trying to make it a go.
Well, talk to me a little bit about Lomax and how important that was, what it is, what kind of role that played in the beginning.
It's huge. The place is amazing. 30-acre certified organic farm in Concord. It's an incubator farm. People hear that, they think chicken. It has nothing to do with poultry. The idea is incubating farmers. You've heard of small business incubators.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small business incubator for mostly vegetable production, but it's kind of just a way in to agriculture for anybody that has nothing, no resources, no place to start. It gives you they give you access to tractors, to land, to a land base, to greenhouses, to facilities, to wash and pack things, walk-in coolers, that kind of stuff. And you get an opportunity to go out there and try your hand at actually growing things, because that's what it takes first. And then you also get to start working through business planning and marketing your products and making connections in the community. And so I used to say we wouldn't be here without Lomax. We would not be here exactly like we are. Maybe we'd be farming, but we wouldn't have got here, I think, as quickly. We made a lot of great connections. That's one of the reasons we chose Cabarrus County and staying local to Charlotte, is the people we met while we were working at Lomax and out in the community around it. And so it's a great springboard. It's not enough. It's nothing that Lomax is doing. It's just that the learning curve is so huge, and the amount of resources that you need to try to do something like this are so huge that Lomax allows you to get a taste before you're willing to like sign on the dotted line and take out a mortgage and go into debt and things like that. So it was huge.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when people think of a farmer, they think of a farmer, but a farmer's got to be a good farmer, B, a good business person, with marketing, running the books. And I think probably the word that goes through your mind a lot is profitability.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so going into, okay, there's going to be a hobby of mine, all right, I'm going to do this full time. What was and I guess on a daily basis, I mean, does the profitability hit you every day, or is it something you just kind of hope it all works out at the end of the week? Or
well, sadly, the answer is yes. Yes to both of those. I was trying to think which one. Yeah, it's yes, it hits me every day. And yes, I'm not a terrible business person. I think I have decent sense with things,
right,
but I'm not very organized. And
right.
so
paperwork.
I don't keep books and records the way, QuickBooks and invoicing and all these things that I should do. We're like back of a napkin.
Yeah.
Like, there's a notepad thrown in the truck that's got orders, and that's where, did they pay me? Well, let me go find the notebook and look back and see. Like, we can't click on a button and QuickBooks pulls up and says, here's your plus or minus for the year. Like, I'm pencil and paper kind of guy. And so we need to improve there, but the profitability hits you every day. The first few years it didn't at Lomax. And I think that's a place that we need to get that in front of a beginner a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Like, we all come together as community and we do events and we hold up farmers and people, like, it's amazing. And I think all we get is a lot of like that fame, that chef worship that you see, is the farmer worship that you see. All you see is that like limelight, and we've got to get more real with people a lot earlier, because you can put yourselves in a lot of jeopardy, financially, socially, physically. I mean, it's a hard, demanding job. It's hard on your back. It's hard on your knees. People need to really understand what they're getting into ahead of time. This last year I would tell you it was the worst year growing for us. A lot of things went wrong. We also had a baby on the way, and that kind of got to me. It made me think differently about like failing in the field. You fail all the time, but I felt more pressure. Like, that tomato crop wasn't just, oh, we'll have some good tomatoes, our customers will be happy with them, we'll make some more extra money this year. It was like, I need to produce these tomatoes for my daughter, and that's different. That's weird.
And when your biggest business partner is nature around you, that adds a whole bunch of pressure on that you can't control.
And there's something really scary about that, and something really calming about that, which is kind of weird. Things are going to go wrong, things are going to work. And a lot of times, everything I do right, it should work perfectly, it doesn't. And then a lot of times, everything I do is wrong. There's no way in the world that this is going to work, and it comes out brilliantly. And so a lot of times I realize, in a weird way, the more hands-off I can be, probably the better, right? I don't understand nature. I don't know what actually goes on in the soil. I can read a lot of books, and I can put down a lot of fertilizers, and I can try to do a lot of things that they will tell you on the internet or wherever else you want to go, but I don't get it. I'm never going to know how that really happens. And so I just try to be observant, work with what I have, and hope for the best a lot of the time.
So on the business side, how long have you been married?
Oh, she's sitting right over there. Put me on the spot. October 12. It's easy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
You got married here.
Just over 4 years. Yeah. October 20th, 2012. We bought this place June of that year. So yeah.
So how is it being a business partner with your wife?
It's pretty good. It's getting a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get better every year, every week. We kind of figure out I mean, delegating, delineating, figuring out roles and who's this and who's that, and now adding parenthood and those roles and things like that. It's going to be hard, I'm sure, for a few more years, but we've come so much further than we were, and we've got systems in place, although they still might be cocktail napkin.
Right.
At least we know where the cocktail napkin is, how we use it, what this terminology means. Like, we're figuring out our own systems, and that's all anybody can hope for, I think, with a farm or with anything in general. So I think we're doing a decent job of it.
So was it a kind of group decision you're kind of going down this farmer avenue, or was it something you were talk to her about and kind of seeing how crazy she thought you were? Or
yeah, I drug her into it. Completely drug her into it. Not kicking and screaming, I wouldn't say that, but it was close. She was totally supportive. But there's been milestones and there's been points where a tipping point where you take a big step. And so there's been those moments where we get to a big step and she's maybe a little more cautious than I am about certain things. They say men and women invest money differently. We're more risk tolerant, maybe. Not always the case, but you hear that said.
Right.
And I think that's sometimes true, where I'm willing to push and go for the light at the end of the tunnel, and she's a lot smarter and more rational to say, like,
yeah, it's balanced.
Let's look right here.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, what we've progressed in, she's probably happy to hear, is that I think me listening in some of those situations as we've started to grow the farm bigger has been our biggest success. Like, we're thinking, well, let's throw some pigs out here. And hey, well, let's release that piece of property and we'll put cows out there. And we got to a point where we were ready to go in like 7 different directions. And we've had small businesses and the farm and and part-time jobs and things. And we finally got to a point where I listened to her a little more and we said, let's grow maybe in what we do, poultry and produce. We can maybe grow in that, but until we feel like we're at the perfect point where we are doing this as good as we possibly can, and we have the free time and the free resources to branch out, then's the time. That's the time to do it. And I think that's made a big difference. Instead of getting into 2 or 3 other things, we said, let's just be better at the 2 that we currently do. And until, you know what I mean? And I think that for a lot of folks getting into farming, you love all of it. Like, I want to grow a little bit of everything and raise all these animals, but you got to figure out you're not going to have the resources, the time, the energy to handle that. And so I think they always tell you diversify, but I think you need to diversify to an extent and then find a niche and specialize to an extent. We're not talking monocultures and all eggs in one basket kind of thing.
Right.
But be kind of known for something you do well, and then you can do a little other stuff. And so that's kind of who we're trying to be now, is just happy with what we do and get better at it.
So going through Lomax was your introduction of, we're doing this organically. Mm-hmm. And then you moved over here as a certified organic farm.
We did.
And you've been certified organic for how long?
6 years. 2010, 11 till 16, full disclosure.
And you're rolling off. That's kind of where I want to go into. So tell me about the thought process of rolling off of that certification, and really what that certification means to you from a marketing perspective. Because I think where the public needs to be educated a little bit on what that organic certification is meant from a marketing standpoint and what it means in the dirt when you're out there farming.
Right. I think that's the biggest question, and that's what a lot of people, naysayers or pros and cons, people on both sides, I think it's the marketing aspect that sometimes the people out here that aren't really happy with organics or against it, or conventional growers that feel like they aren't getting a fair shake because of it, think it's only marketing, and that's all it is we're saying that this is better than this, and that's a debate I won't get into. To us, we feel like it's important to grow things with as limited input, right? As a farmer, if it's this product, this chemical, that chemical, I don't want to spray and dump things out in the field. First of all, because I have to buy it. I have to spray it. I have to have equipment for it. I'm the guy standing there. I'm the guy with the backpack sprayer on. I'm the guy closest to the food. My customers are close to it, but I'm the guy every day in the field. Mm-hmm. So if it's something that I want it to be as healthy as it could possibly be. And then I want to feed it to my daughter. I want it to be as healthy as it can be for her and for you and your kids. So that's really important to me. I think you got to be really careful to go the other extreme and say if it's not organic, it's poison. And these growers that have been doing this for 30 years, 50 years, 60 years are bad people or are doing this for whatever. They're supporting Monsanto and blah, 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 blah. They're not. They're good people. Everybody. Like the guy across the road that's doing corn and soybeans, he's a good guy. If I have a problem, I'm going to go ask him. He may not know about this one chemical that I use or can't use or blah, blah, blah. But he understands the timing, when to plant this, how to harvest that. He knows what old timers used to do. So there's a lot of knowledge there, and I feel like a lot of times we shut the whole conversation down because it's like, I wear the badge of organic and you wear the badge of blah, blah, blah. And I don't look at it like that. We did it because that's what, when we got into Lomax, that's what the program was. That's the way they taught me to grow. So I've never sprayed Roundup in my life. I'm proud of that. I'm not saying if you have, you're a bad person. Mm-hmm. I don't really understand it. I'm not a chemist. I'm not into that. I like getting out and growing vegetables and eating them and sharing that with people. So I want to do what's as safe as possible. I don't want to do a ton of like research to understand like, is this chemical compound and that stuff. So to me, organics gave me a little bit of security and a peace of mind that there's simple. A third party vetting some things.
Right.
I'm going to continue to grow that way. We decided to stop just because honestly, the two biggest things are time and money. And this certification cost me more time and more money. I have to pay for it, and then I have to do more paperwork, and I have to keep up with some records that honestly I'm not going to keep up with. I'm not going to keep a journal of every time I see a pest. There's some things I'm going to document always that you need to know to be a good grower. There's some things that I don't think that I have to always keep track of. And for me, at the end of the long, hot day, I want to go inside. I got to play with my kid. I got to help her grow up. I got to see my wife a little bit. And so I don't want to sit down and spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour doing paperwork that I just don't feel like is 100% necessary. The crop that comes to market this year and last year, it's going to be the same one. It's going to be the same tomato, grown the same way by the same guy in the same ground. The sign's not going to say the same thing. And so I think the consumer should stop and think about that. If you have no idea what you're getting into, we buy organic when we can with certain crops. I think meats and certain things like that, it's important. Understand what's in there. If you can rinse off a tomato, there's probably not a ton of craziness in there. There can be. I think that's a judgment call by the person. But
well, the whole thought, my perception on the label, I don't think it means anything to me.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of people that work around it.
Right.
To have the label on it.
Yeah.
So that's the whole reason for what we're trying to do, even with this series, these dinner series, is and our mission at hand is have that relationship with the farmer.
Right.
Labels don't mean anything.
Yeah. I don't want to bash it because I think it's the.
I don't want to put it in your mouth.
Right. No, and I'm with you. And that's part of the reason is my buddy says this about organic all the time. It's the best thing that we have. It's not perfect, right? But if you need some sense of security in the product that you're getting,
right,
the best you're going to get in the United States or in the entire world, other than the UK. The UK's on top of it. They are completely banning substances from the whole borders and all that. But okay, so minus them.
Right.
In the United States, this is the best you're going to get.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot to it. They come out and they go through every receipt. They go through seed packets. We prove that we grow this. They want to see receipts, see what products we're spraying. They want to see a list of when we've applied anything over our entire life and 3 years before we started farming on that land.
Yeah.
So it's not nothing. It's not just marketing. A lot of people will say that. But I think consumers aren't knowledgeable enough. And I think it's too much to ask a small farmer to also be an educator. I'm not. It's hard for me to educate myself enough to do my job as growing as well as I can. And so I can't take on the role of teaching and spreading this information to people. So I think it is what you make it. I believe it's important to an extent how things are grown. The label, you decide.
Now, moving over to poultry production.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to do anyway.
No, you should.
I mean, have you been in a big commercial chicken house?
Nope.
You know, I have. You know, I mean, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'll never buy chicken from Purdue, Tyson, or Pilgrim ever again. You know, and kind of seeing your free range out there today is just, you know, that to me, that's what needs to be happening more of, and it's more of a balance, you know, because it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and for me, everything's about balance. You know, now on poultry, you know, for me, going to the farmer's market, beef, pork, not that big of a difference. Poultry is almost 4 or 5 times sometimes.
Yeah.
What you'd go.
We're talking price.
Price.
Sorry, I zoned out for a second. Yeah.
You know, so
absolutely.
You know, what's your, and I get it all the time, you know, because like, especially around Thanksgiving, I'll go, I'm getting a turkey from a local farmer. Oh, I want one, you know, a neighbor of mine. I'm like, well, it's going to be $100, $120. Well, I don't want it now, you know, and now it's like this crazy notion, you know, so I mean, what is your kind of thought process on, you know, is it sustainable from a big commercial operation? Because I do feel like that with the, you know, the chicken flus and the diseases that kind of come through, I feel like they really put the onus on operations like yourselves on the reasons why that happens.
Yeah.
But you know, on
sometimes
a personal level, I mean, what's your thought on all that?
I'll say first that my farm is not going to feed the world, and
do you think their farms will, you know, and with the repercussions and the antibiotics and
I unfortunately. And this is where people probably hate me, right? Because I run a certified organic farm for 6 years, organically grown, non-GMO poultry,
right?
All those things. I believe in it. But first world problems. The people that are sitting having these conversations, that are watching this documentary, that are at the dinners, that are coming out, are in a different situation than a lot of the rest of the world. And so I think it's so hard. I think we got to coexist somehow.
Well, there's no right or wrong answer.
I just think
the feed the world thing is number one that is out there.
Right.
Okay, you're feeding on one hand, but also you're also making a large portion of the population, you know, antibiotic
right. There's
resistant.
Some dangers to that. I think there's got to be a middle ground.
Right.
Because there's got to be a middle ground, and I don't know how you fix it.
Neither do I.
That's way above my pay grade. I just
think we need to start talking about it.
I'm never for bashing anybody, right? And I don't think, like Monsanto is the demons of the world, right? And GMOs are the demons of the world. I'm going to be frank with you. I don't fully know, and I don't fully understand them all. We've made a decision. My decision in life with a lot of things is, what if, right?
Right.
And so, lesser of two evils. If I say, this is fine, this is safe, no, don't worry, just come on, we got to feed people, we need cheap meat, we need this, we need blah, 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 just go. And we're wrong. In 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, we have cancer rates, we have diseases, we have disease-resistant, antibiotic-resistant, we're seeing superbugs, things like that. That could be where we're going. Is factory farming, are these things to blame? Maybe, partially.
Yeah.
Who knows? We probably won't know until we're 50 or 100 years from now. So with GMOs, with the factory farm stuff, that's where I feel, and that's why we've made a decision that what if those things are harmful? Well, let's not do them. I feel that way about like energy policy. Well, what if we are going to run out of oil? What if we are going to run out of fresh water? Well, if we just keep going like there's no chance we will, and we get there, well, what were we doing? What were we thinking? So why not now, without taking food out of oil workers' mouths that need to feed their family, why not try to look at some alternatives? Why not try to preserve? I always think to myself, you're never going to reach a point where you say, oh, I wish we would have wasted more of this.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to reach a point where you say, shit, why didn't we save more of this? Right. And so that's the way I feel about farming too. You know what? We need these GMO there's a rice or something that they're looking to do in Africa that can feed millions of people. Am I going to say GMOs are terrible across the board and let people die? No. The people that can't afford to pay $25 or $30 for a chicken, that need $1.99 chicken breasts at Walmart to feed their children, they need it. I don't know how you get it to them. I don't want you to get it to them with antibiotics in them, but how can you say that to those people?
Yeah.
So
no, it's hard.
I do what I feel is right, and my customers gravitate to that. And I'm not too naive to realize that my customers are at a point economically and socially that they can buy into what I do. And that's important to me. And I think access for other folks to this kind of food is important above my pay grade. I get up and try to grow the greatest food that I can for people that can come and get it. I have to pay some bills too. I set a price point to where there's a margin there to feed my family as well.
Now, as far as, the price of poultry and the difference, because, hell, you can buy a whole chicken at the grocery store for $5.
Cooked in a package.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what, is it just economies of scale?
Economies of scale.
That's it.
Absolutely. It's economies of scale. When you have, I don't even know numbers. I was going to say a number, but I don't know how many birds are in one of those houses, 20,000, 50,000,
That's a lot.
And how many they can turn over in a given year. If I can turn birds over in my brooder in 2 to 4 weeks, well, if they're inside all the time, let's say they can turn birds. I was in a conference and they were saying that they could grow a 10-pound bird in 6 weeks or something. If you can turn 20,000 or 50,000 or whatever that number is every 6 weeks throughout the season, can you make $1 a bird? And at the end of the year, you raise 500,000 birds, but you profited and you net $1 a bird, but you raised 500,000. And
Right.
These numbers are not accurate. I have no idea.
Right.
But you made $500,000 as a poultry farmer. Good for you. If that's the way, that's a pretty decent business model to me. We raise a few thousand a year. Our costs are astronomical. We go through 3,000 pounds of chicken feed in 5 days. And I also think about a lot of the time for people that organic, non-GMO, you get into these debates. My organic or sustainable, we'll call it since we're no longer certified, my sustainable farm, which whatever that is,
Yeah.
you can be sustainable in the dirt and the bank account's not sustainable.
Right.
Or vice versa.
Well, I always,
you know what I mean? Like sustainable is a lot of things.
Well,
like,
when people start talking about sustainability, the first thing I say, profitability is a big part of the sustainability equation.
I think it's the number one. It's sexy to talk about compost and like we're going to cover crop and grow this, but it's not sexy to be like, I do all that shit and I don't make any money.
Right.
And in 3 years, I'm working for someone else or, but I don't even know where we were going. With poultry, economies of scale,
right.
we're going through 3,000 chickens a year is our max, right? That's where we're going to top out. So if I wanted to ever try to get to $500,000 a year, which you could, of course, think about the difference there. Is like, well, if I could make $10 or $15 a chicken and raise 3,000, well, then I made $30,000 that year. That is close to poverty level wages. For a family of 3, that is poverty level wages. And so to look at me at the farmer's market and go, how can you sell a $30 chicken? Well, because if I sell 3,000 of them at the end of the year, I made 20 grand. And that is for a family of 3, and these aren't accurate numbers either, but they're close.
Right.
There's not a lot of money there. And you know what? I'm the guy that gets the chicken in a day old. I feed it, I water it, I put shavings in there, I clean it out. I carry the bird out, I set it in the field. I manage it every day. I feed it and water it there. I'm the guy that catches it, brings it in. I personally butcher it. I cut it up. I package it. I put it into my freezer that I pay the light bill on. I take it and put it in a cooler I bought, put it into my truck. I drive it 40 minutes to the market. I'm the guy standing there selling it to you. There's got to be more in it for me, or I don't do that. I can't do those things, And it's like, and the downside of it sometimes for me is you try to grow for the organic and the non-GMO. There's so many parts of the farm and so many moments where your morals and your ethics and your business bump into each other. I realized that I buy 3,000 pounds of chicken feed from a conventional farm every week, year round. So this farm that people want to look at and say, organic and do you know how much money I pump in to another farm that same person could think is ruining the world and poisoning the world?
Yeah.
I don't think that way. I think I'm supporting my neighbor, who's
Right.
an awesome guy who I respect, who has grown a business, has grown a great product. We've moved to 100% non-GMO across the whole farm. Like I said, that's what we feel. But there's so many times you're buying fertilizer, you're buying things. You got to be in the game. If you're running a business, you're running a business. And so there's a lot of times where it's like, I could only raise heirloom tomatoes and heritage breed chickens and I could let them forage for everything they eat.
Yeah.
Not commercially, financially viable.
Oh, that's too extreme.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, have you seen I mean, kind of what are some positive moments that you get, from your customer base, and especially at the farmers markets, what kind of gets under your skin?
They're really mostly almost all positive. It's just seeing the reaction, seeing people, hearing customers talk amongst themselves about how much they enjoy a product and telling them, oh, I love this, I got it last week, or oh, this is my favorite, do this with it. Watching them be excited, getting that feedback from us helps kind of regenerate us and put us back to work for the next week or the next season, getting things going, because we know there's these people here that love it, that rely on what we do, that are into it, that respect it. The downside, what gets under your skin, it's retail. I mean, every once in a while, you have a thing. I mean, that's the way it is. People are people. But for the most part, we try. My mantra with our farm and our family is never say no. I've stood beside a farmer at a farmer's market. Customer walks up, they've got eggs, I got eggs. Same price, maybe not. Maybe I'm more expensive. I have no problem being more expensive than somebody else. Yep. I don't feel like it's really competition. I feel like they're doing a great thing and they're doing theirs and I'm doing mine, and people will come and they'll get what they want. But I've watched them say, customer, do you sell half a dozen eggs? And they're like, no, sorry, I can't do that. They walk by. Before they're at my table, I've got my pocket knife out. I'm cutting the carton in half. I love to cut it in half right in front of them. I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, you sell it? Yeah. If I can get 6 eggs out I'll put them in your purse, in your pocket. Why would I not?
Yeah.
I'm in the business of selling.
Right.
Who cares? And so I don't say no to people if I can help it. It can be a bad thing in certain times.
Right.
I'm going to learn to say no more often. But when it comes to customers and markets,
you say yes
retail,
when it's easy. When it's something it's not a lot of effort and it goes a long way from the other side, that's when you say yes.
Yeah, cater to people. And so
Right.
I think what we do a decent job with, we could always be better at everything, but is I try to take a hospitality service industry, because where I came from, it's what I did for a lot of time, into small farming. And it is a small business. So I try to be there to cater to them. I know a customer, I want to know that they, for a shopping experience, whatever, I try to anticipate them needing a bag before, like if you're waiting tables, don't make them ask for a refill. I mean, you be on top of them. You ask them if they need something, or you know what I'm saying? So I try to anticipate customers' needs, never say no, work with them, listen to them, hear from them. I'm always listening if they're asking about, I wish I had this, or chefs are the same way. If they're talking about this new thing they want, I'm listening. If it makes any kind of sense for us to try to grow it or try to do it, you may see it pop up next season. So I don't really have anything bad to say about markets and customers and things like that. They're our bread and butter. That's everything to us.
Well, being that it's your bread and butter, what is the thought process for you guys you are in 3 markets now?
We're in 2.
2, Winston and Davidson?
Yeah.
And you were in Atherton?
We were 5 years.
So I think a lot of people don't understand how important those decisions are on those markets and what it means to commit to them and what you need to get out of them. And so walk us through a little bit of that thought process and decision making and where you're going to go full round, a year round with the market or.
Well, part of it's logistics, I guess, is there's only so many of us. How far is it? How, do we have staff to handle marketing? What are the hours? There's little things like that. But I guess more than anything, it really comes down to, for us, is the market established? Is it in an area that we believe our clientele, the people that are in that position, economically, socially, whatever the case may be, not that we don't want to cater to others, but we have to be, you don't put certain kinds of restaurants in certain areas, you cater to certain populations. And so we've found good success with trying to go to established, well-known markets with a certain clientele. I want every customer of any shape, size, color, creed. That doesn't matter to me at all. But Davidson, for example, going into a college area, you may have a higher education, you may have a higher income level. Those are things that unfortunately have to matter to a certain extent, as opposed to there's other markets that are fledgling or just beginning, and in 5 years, they may be everything that some of these more established markets are. But for a small farm, I see guys and girls, folks struggling right now, getting into markets that return. You work all week, You pack it up just like me. If we do everything the same, and then I stand at this market and make $1,000, and you stand at that market and make $200, and everything's the same except that point of sale,
It's hard.
that can end your farming career really fast. And so we've been really lucky. I think it doesn't only come down to the market, it comes down to you. You have to be able to market yourself, speak well, be good with customers. There's a lot of really good growers that should not be selling their own product.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that there's a lot of people that could sell like whatever they, could sell anything.
Yeah.
Ice to an Eskimo, but they cannot, they maybe shouldn't be a grower. They're not growing as well.
Yeah.
And so I think we do an okay job at being mediocre, I hope, at both. Is where we're growing a quality product as good as we can get. That changes with the seasons and with whatever we have to contend with. But our intention is always to bring the best, and then present it in a good way and be super personable and as knowledgeable as we can be and as friendly and open about what we're doing. And hopefully those things work. And so I think you take that advice into any market, it will do you well. Some are going to be better than others.
Well, I think some people know what CSAs are.
Yeah.
I think most people don't. But kind of what it stands for.
Yeah.
And talk about that a little bit and what your experiences has been with it.
Yeah.
Just from knowing about it and what you're kind of offering this year.
Community supported agriculture is what it stands for. The idea is people basically buy shares almost. They buy into your farm almost like it's a stock, and they pay you early in the season, January, February. This time of year is the worst for us. Things have pretty much played out a lot of the fall crops. We've got January, February, March. You think it starts warming up and you start thinking about seeing some produce in March, but March sometimes turns out to be one of our worst months because we have tapped out every bit of resources we have at that point, and we haven't quite got to the growing season yet. So sometimes the pinch in March is worse than anything. And it just so happens that January to March timeframe is when we have to spend the majority of our money, or a major sum of money. Our tiny little 2-acre vegetable farm with a few thousand chickens, we need to come up with like $12,000 to $15,000 a year. And that's not building a greenhouse in the off season. That's not doing any other infrastructure. That's chickens, feed, some infrastructure improvements, but it's things that you gotta have, harvest totes, drip irrigation supplies, fertilizer, seeds. It's that kind of stuff. That's a big chunk of change. And a lot of farms may not get to the end of the year and just have a spare 12 or 15 grand laying around. So then how do you pay to live, have this extra sum of money to start the season? And so that's the first big nut to crack every year for us, is where's that money come from? Mm-hmm. So CSA helps to alleviate that. Customers buy in, and basically I'm promising them a dollar amount or a certain amount of product in April, May, June, whenever the season really gets going. They pay for it now.
Yeah.
So it helps me make that money up front and then repay in product when we have it. I've never done it. I've never been a fan of it. Everything I've read and in hearing about it, your retention rate is typically like 40%. Or sometimes lower. So that means if I have 10 customers at a CSA this year, I'm going to get 4 of them back next year, 3 or 4.
Why do you think that is?
Supposedly from the literature, they either feel like they're getting too much stuff or not enough stuff. Which either you're not giving them, which is true. You can see how it happens. You keep giving them,
or they're not getting what they want.
Right, or they're not getting or they go to the market and there's all this fun stuff and then they got a box full of turnips and they don't understand that.
Right.
So
I'm going to give you the
right. And I think that hopefully that's not what farms are doing. We've decided.
Well, that's something I think that's on your end of manage
We've decided
that real well.
to do one this year. We feel like we've been at it 7 years. Early on, I was always scared too. Like, I don't want to take thousands of dollars from people and then be on the hook for it.
Yeah.
And how those days feel when you need to go out and get 30 boxes of stuff and you're looking at a field that's just devastated. And you're like, well, what am I going to come up with? I don't like that feeling. I want to go feeling good. The offering is plentiful. We feel like we've got to a point where we can usually come up with good quality stuff. With the poultry, that gives us a little bit. If I just drop the ball and I'm not going to have the lettuce I thought I'm going to have, I could probably slide a dozen eggs in the box this week and say, hey, folks, I'm sorry, we messed up.
I think that'll help.
People might be okay with that.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, we dropped the ball completely.
Yeah.
Here's a chicken and some eggs and a bunch of radishes. We're really sorry, but we're going to hit you hard with some good stuff next week. So we think that we got enough to maneuver a little bit, but I don't know. The financial side of it is big for us.
I think it's a great way for people that want to support their local farm.
Absolutely.
Without any expectations, but a huge reward at the through the growing season. I think it's great.
Yeah.
So getting down to the dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Excited?
I am.
Got 73 people coming out today.
I know, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's by far the biggest turnout we've had.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because we're filming it, but
maybe. I didn't think about that.
But I'm excited for it. And so the dinner that we're having tonight is going to kind of wrap up this greenhouse. So kind of talk us through why you need it.
Yeah.
And what it means to have it, and kind of the labor and really how it affects what you guys do in this early part of the season.
Sure. So since 2011, I've been growing out of Lomax's greenhouse. Obviously, while we were there, when we transitioned off to here, we still rent greenhouse space from them. There's a lot of infrastructure up front to you. We knew it was there. We had access to it. But it's a 20-minute drive both ways. So this time of year, over the last few years, January, February, every single day, I get up, I drive there, sometimes just to water plants, just to check and make sure things didn't get too dry, too hot, too cold, check the situation out. We've kept saying we've got to get a greenhouse. Just that hour drive back and forth.
Yeah.
As soon as you leave the farm, you're spending money, you're wasting time, you're not being productive, you're not being efficient. So we've wanted to get this going for a few years. This year we just realized, especially with little Ella being born, there's no way that I can leave the farm for an hour every day and juggle everything that we're going to have to juggle. So we set out to build this about 6 weeks ago. I thought I would give myself plenty of time. I started like early December. Here we are, middle of January.
I mean, it didn't work out exactly the way you thought?
Not quite, no. Especially with like me building something.
Yeah.
Who would think something could go wrong? Like, I'm such a handy guy. I'm not really. I don't even enjoy it or really like it.
Hey, it's structurally sound.
Yeah.
Or I hope it is.
It's rounded.
Yeah.
There's plastic on it.
Yeah.
It holds heat, we think. But there was a lot more that kind of, went into it than we thought. Like always, it took 1,000 trips to the hardware store, and we had to grade a pad, get a nice flat surface. Hopefully that rain will, you have a lot of rain that hits the top of this and wants to come off the sides. We want to make sure that doesn't come underneath. Framing in end walls, driving posts a couple feet into the ground with a sledgehammer one afternoon was awesome. Inserting the hoops over the top that are going to hold and support the plastic, framing the wooden end walls, driving some posts in so we could frame in doors and vents so that we can make sure we get enough airflow and ventilation in here. We decided to go, it's a 6 mil thickness poly film. We decided to go with 2 of those. What we're looking at is saying that the R value, how much it insulates, by putting 1 layer of plastic and then another, and we have a small fan that we just wired in. My father-in-law is my electrician.
Oh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wired in a small fan that's going to blow air in there and just expand that. And it almost doubles your insulation value by just having that dead airspace between the 2 layers of plastic. That hopefully will help us save some money on the heater. We got a propane heater. We had to learn a little bit about wiring up a heater, the venting, making sure that hopefully we don't die of carbon monoxide poisoning. We got all those gases. We plugged in. We were nervous. We plugged in a carbon monoxide sensor. So just in case, if you hear dinging, run.
Yeah.
Get out of here. But we fired that thing up. It is running. The thermostat's wired in. It's running. We've got a little more woodwork and securing of plastic. And my target date is January 15th to start things. I'm going to be a little bit late. I'll probably be a week behind, but we're always a week or 2 behind. So we're really excited to be able to come out the door, manage the plants appropriately. Instead of driving 20 minutes, get there. They don't really need to be watered, but they might dry out by tomorrow, and you're kind of, so we didn't treat the plants the way they needed to because we had an hour drive to deal with them.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be a lot easier to come out and check the plants and treat them the way we should. Hopefully we'll get better quality. We can grow a lot more. You can only grow so many plants when you got to truck them back and forth.
Well, the
So,
time factor. I mean, I think, and
yeah.
I really what I want the folks at home to understand is what that hour means to you.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, when you have, that clock is ticking from the moment you wake up.
Yeah.
You got a lot to do.
It could mean a lot of things. Yeah, it could mean us getting a ton of stuff done on the farm. It could also mean, and what we've started to kind of realize is, it could mean an hour sitting on the couch with my kid and my wife, having dinner, talking, spending a little time. We started to try to think about the way we're living in the farm. It can completely take over everything. Every waking second, you're never going to get it all done. You always need more. The farm is a consuming creature. It needs things. It needs energy. It needs fertilizer. It needs water. It needs, the animals. There's labor, things that have to get done. And that can just overwhelm you. And so we've started to try to take time, eat lunch, stop, no matter what.
Yeah.
And eat lunch. An hour off to eat lunch in the air conditioning in the middle of summer is something the first couple of years at Lomax I didn't do. We pushed through 10-hour day, eat something on the fly, keep going, you got to get it done. And now we're realizing that hour lunch means a world of difference when you head back out at 1 o'clock and it's 100 degrees. And so we're trying to do some more things like that. So with the baby coming, with the baby's here, having that extra hour, just becoming more efficient, saving time, saves money, better standard of living. That's what we're trying to do, is where we can do this in 10 years and in 15 years and, stay at it. So.
Well, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
I mean, coming out here,
yeah,
looking at what you and Danny do on a daily basis, I'm always in awe.
Yeah.
And
you're welcome anytime, but next time, May,
we'll come
June,
back.
maybe.
We'll come back.
Like,
well,
come when it's not.
We got to show
when it's not just
Hey,
mud.
are you working in January?
That's right. I am working.
We need to show what you're doing.
That's true. That's true.
Everybody has this image in their head of green pastures and these rosy things that we see on television.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is of what we're showing today.
Yeah.
You're farming in January.
We are.
Well, let's go have a good time tonight, and hopefully we can raise enough money to get you guys squared away.
Absolutely. We're excited. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.